The full episode is now available on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Please see the link in the description for more details.
So, Preston, I wanted to continue the conversation we had last time about Jenna Lannister coming down to King's Landing and being somewhat of a support system for Cersei and potentially being regent to Tommen. I thought that was a very interesting discussion. I kind of want to continue that if you're down.
Sure. It was quite, yeah. This came from because Carmine looked through my comments and was like, "Oh my gosh, so many people are making cool points. We got to come back to this topic. There's so much to talk about here." And I was like, "Okay, we'll talk about it." But the complicated the complicated King's Landing situation and how Kevin dying is a clusterfuck.
Right. That whole conversation came from the rumor, or I don't know if it was a rumor or it was confirmed that George actually somewhat was a little panicky about him killing off a character that he later realized he needed. I theorize that it's Kevin because who else could it be?
I mean, it's a secondhand story from another writer, and like who knows what George randomly says, or if he's making a joke. But like nonetheless, the story from the woman that wrote Outlander is that she was having lunch with George and he says that he was having trouble with wins because he regretted killing a character off and that he painted himself into a corner. Yeah.
So someone in your comment section made a very good point, because we came up with the idea that as Jenna Lannister, we really liked her interactions with Jaime. Her having interactions with Cersei would be great, and she'd make a decent regent. But I think exactly her being a decent regent is why it most likely won't happen, because it would be actually very good for the realm. So the guy goes, Crag Gary, he goes, "I don't see how Jenna as regent makes any sense. The regent doesn't have to be a relative. It can literally be any powerful lord from Westeros. Why wouldn't the Tyrells snatch that position for themselves now that they have the chance? Westeros is still very patriarchal too. There's no way they'd invite a woman to take up that role." You said, in reply, because the Lannisters would rise up if not thrown a bone. Kevin is murdered, Pycelle is murdered, Cersei's on trial. They wouldn't tolerate the regency being stolen too. Good point, but he also has a very good point. So we all know that George loves to double dip with story beats, right? Every time we did a Fire and Blood podcast, at the very end, we would run over all the stuff George has reused, right? We have in Dance of Dragons alone, we have a Lannister twins, we have a woman in charge of the Vale, old man is in charge of Riverrun, So
both points are correct, but this gets into whether one is going to look at things like what is one legalistically capable of doing, and then what is smart politically based on actual feelings in the realm, So legalistically, yes, the Tyrells have all of the power and can do whatever they want. And legalistically, they can name some sort of, they have the power to name regents, because I think Kevin was kind of chosen because of Harry Swift and Pycelle, though those are both Westermen. And so there's no real system on how regents are chosen or why regents are chosen to rule, or even, we don't even understand really how the small council works and why people crave those positions,
I think for the same reason people crave positions in Congress now, to do insider trading and stuff, and to kind of...
Well, in Congress, people actually have votes and power. In the world of Ice and Fire, like you have a king or queen, and so the small council should just be advisors, but everyone like acts like these things are huge, powerful positions. But they kind of are powerful positions if the king is suddenly gone for a moment. He goes hunting in the Kingswood, or in this situation, the king is a child and can't really rule on his own. And so in this situation, small council members seem to have chosen a regent who would be the real ruler of Westeros, And so, the idea is that, yes, the Tyrells, Mace his hand, and he's got a lot of power, but realistically, he's got all this power, but if he actually executes all of that power and names somebody that he wants as regent, the Lannisters just aren't going to take it. Like it's the Lannisters are in a situation where in a very short period of time, Tywin dies, Jaime Lannister goes missing, Cersei is put on trial, and then Kevin is murdered, and then Pycelle is murdered. The only real pro-Lannister person left in King's Landing is Harry Swift.
I was about to, well, isn't Harry Swift in... I was going to say Qyburn. Isn't Harry Swift in Braavos right now?
Well, that's so the Braavos chapter, he is ordered to go to Braavos. However, and the Mercy chapter takes place a month maybe after the events of the epilogue. So we kind of know the time period because there's a full moon when Kevin dies, and then Harry Swift is in Braavos, and I think there's a full moon or at least a big moon when he arrives in Braavos. I have to check out the exact line from the Mercy chapter. It's maybe it says. Let me see here. I'm bringing up the Mercy chapter right now. It's Mercy on to page 120. It's so this idea. Okay. Shivering. I'm trying to yeah, it was a full moon in the Mercy chapter. So we actually have so it's a full moon in the Mercy chapter, it's a full moon in the epilogue. So we kind of know that exactly 1 month or 2 months have passed between epilogue and Mercy. So in a sense, we know that Harry Swift is probably a good choice for Regent, actually, because he's in King's Landing. But we know he's not chosen for Regent because he goes to Braavos. Fairly quickly, he hops on a ship and stays as Master of Coin. So, you got to think of all these other Lannisters and the people running these Lannister armies. Like, are they really going to tolerate all of their kin getting killed off one by one mysteriously and put on trial and executed and things like that? No. You know, the Tyrells have to throw them some sort of bone, and so they would throw them.
I have an answer. I have an answer for that. I have an answer for that with where I was going. So, like I said, George loves to regurgitate plot points, and we have a council of... I'm assuming for Winds of Winter, for Tommen, we'll get a council of regents instead of just one regent, right? So, for throwing the Lannisters a bone, this is a perfect way to get Jaime Lannister back to King's Landing. Because remember, Cersei sends him... For those of you who don't remember, Cersei sends him a letter, he burns it, he has no intention of going back anytime soon. However, if they require the Lord Commander and the King's uncle with them to be one of the regents, then he's probably coming back after the Lady Stoneheart plot is done. So that's a perfect excuse to get Jaime back to King's Landing and to put him in conflict with Cersei. Because she's probably thinking, oh, you're coming back because of my letter. Yeah. No, that's not it. So that's what I'm assuming is going to happen. We're going to get a council, Jaime will be called back, and that's the whole thing. You're right that Mace is trying to fill the small council with his supporters, but at the same time... isn't Redwine, who's Master of Ships, isn't he heading over to back to the Reach to help out against the Ironborn incursion?
Yes.
Right now, Randall Tarley is the only one there to really back up Mace, but I think something's going to bring him away from that, and I think that will be the Golden Company. Because, once again... No, go ahead.
I do think, look, the Council of Regents, and the reason Carmine's bringing this up is that in Fire and Blood, at the very end, when Aegon III becomes king, he's too young, so they set up a Council of Regents, and there's 7 of them, and it's a really fun idea having 7 people acting as regent. Just like, people brought up, like, what if Cersei's trial is a trial by combat with 7? It's a trial of 7, like they had in Dunk and Egg. Like, there could be 7 fighters fighting 7 fighters, and it's just all these characters, and it's fun. And I did think about the Council of Regents, but it's like, wow, at that point, you got so many. You're choking on characters here. You're choking on people in King's Landing.
Perfect for George.
Remember, yeah, but I'm trying to think who would fill it out, because already you've got Lady Nym and Tyene showing up in King's Landing. So you got to deal with them, you know. And then you've got Randall Tarley and Mace Tyrell, Mace's hand. Randall is he's master of laws, and he also has to like fight the Golden Company, you know, and deal with that.
And he will lose, by the way. He will definitely lose, because that is when that's when the Reach will know that the Golden Company is more of a threat than Robert ever was. Because this is my idea, is that what I'm thinking about Winds of Winter and Randall Tarley, he's either going to die or get captured, because Randall was the only person who gave Robert his only defeat in Robert's rebellion. So if Jon Con and fake Aegon are able to take him out, this is a problem. Yeah. This is a threat. So I'm assuming the Golden Company will take him away. So it'll just be Mace there with the Sand Snakes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cersei's creature, Qyburn. Like, who else is left? And then Jaime.
No, you're absolutely right. They do need to. The Golden Company does need to win, but the Golden Company is moving way too fast. So when I think about like a council of regents and this small council with like the Dornish arriving and all of this new situation that is there, and all of these characters that need to be explored, there's just not that much time, considering that Jon Con is coming. You know, he's coming in a month, and he will conquer King's Landing. Aegon will sit the throne, because there has to be a second Dance of the Dragons. So, you know, it's just so many characters and so much political like bickering to happen in the very short period of time before Aegon takes over, before Jon Con takes over, you know?
And that's why it's absolutely perfect. That's like the perfect... This is the whole chaos of like everyone kind of working for themselves and not giving a fuck about Tommen. Like, because the small council, for the most part, it sounds like it's going to be just Mace, Lady Nym, Qyburn. Swift is not there. Paxter Redwine is gone.
Like, okay, so we got Master of Wisdom. So the small council right now is Mace is hand. Lord Commander of the Kingsguard is missing. And then Randall Tarley, Master of Law. Or is he Lady Nym gonna be or is Lady Nym...
She's just coming to fill Oberyn's spot. What was Oberyn's spot?
As just advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They can just invent advisor spots as well. Swift is Master of Coin. We need a new Grand Maester. Mm-hmm. That's probably going to be Gorman Tyrell from but whoever it is, you know, they have to. That's a trip they have to make, you know, which will take time. And so they got to start heading towards King's Landing, and then Master of Whisperers is still Qyburn, because they don't know who else to put in there. So it's crammed. But I say, like, do you remember the first time you read Cersei 4: A Feast for Crows?
Remind me what happens in Cersei 4 specifically.
Cersei 4: A Feast for Crows is a great chapter, one of my favorite, and it's Cersei's small council.
Is that the one where she tries to have Jon assassinated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But also remember that, like, that small council is an introduction of all these new characters that we haven't really spent time with. Giles Rosby, Orain Waters, Orton Merryweather, Harry Swift that's really his like time. And so there's so much time, like, with Cersei, like, exploring these new characters. The only person we kind of really know is Pycelle, who's in that scene. And you'd have, with a Council of Regents, you'd have to do that again. You know, you'd have to do that again. I mean, I guess we kind of have a we do have a small council scene in Epilogue where nearly everybody's there. But it's, you know, there's just too much time. There's just too, like, now, of course, like, I'm saying this and everybody's like, well, that sounds like George. Mm-hmm. Like, George would waste freaking 4 Cersei chapters on all of these characters, like, bickering and not get anywhere and not advance the plot. And I'm like, that's all possible. That's all possible. But, you know, who would be filling these 7 regent spots?
Oh, I'm not saying we'll have 7 regents. I'm saying, I mean, it's possible we could have a number of regents, but most of them are gone. Like, Redwine's gone, Randall Tarley will be gone dealing with the Golden Company. So we'll just have Qyburn. Harris Swift is probably won't be back in time. So we have Mace Tyrell, Lady Nym, and Qyburn, and maybe if Jaime comes back in time, maybe Jaime. But right now, we only have 3 people on the council. Actually, no, Lady Nym is not even there yet. So as of now, it's only Tyrell, it's only Mace, Randall, and Qyburn.
Yeah. So the Council of Regents that was brought in for
Aegon III?
For Aegon the Third. Yeah, and is Jane Arryn, Lady of the Eyrie, Royce Caron, Lord of Nightsong, Torrin Manderly, Manfred Mooten, Grand Maester Munkin. So I guess they put the Grand Maester on as well. So there was a double. Corlys Velaryon, and Roland Westerling. So at least I suppose you could make the small council double as a council of regents, I suppose. But I'm trying to think. He was. Yeah, so some people could double, but I don't know. It just seems like a lot of people crammed in King's Landing, and I just don't know. I don't know who else would be like big names who are close by who would just jump on this council as well. Like we get back to the same problem of transportation. Like Aegon is a mere month away. Is only 1 month away. As long as it takes him to march from Storm's End to King's Landing. And everybody else's transport time is like 2 weeks, like
I would argue more than a
who,
month, because if Randall Tarley if we're going to get a repeat of the Battle of Ashford, where the first one, Randall Tarley beats Robert Baratheon, if Randall's going to go out to meet the Golden Company, if it's at Ashford, that would be pretty nice. But let's say Randall Tarley meets the Golden Company and he loses. That battle will probably be so big or so impactful for both sides that'll probably hinder him for a couple of weeks. So yes, he could probably get there in a month without any issues, but I'm pretty sure Randall Tarley will go out to meet him, which will probably hold him off for a bit.
But the thing is, in the epilogue, is they're talking about like all of these events are going to happen immediately. Now George has pulled shit before where he claims something happening immediately and then it's not happening for a long time. For example, if you finish a Clash of Kings, it sounds like Mance is gonna hit the wall like immediately. Oh my god, you're stuck up here in the Frostfangs, we're marching on your wall. Boom! And then you come back next book and they're on a long months long march down to the battle doesn't happen until the middle to end of the book of A Storm of Swords. So it's not like George can't slow play stuff like that, but he can't slow play it too much. Like Aegon has to be established, and then for Daenerys to get back. So Aegon at least needs to be sitting on the throne. I don't know, for a little bit before Daenerys arrives. And say Daenerys arrives at latest the end of the Winds of Winter, the very latest, last chapter, right? You've got to have Aegon established somewhat. So I don't know. It's I would vote more for a quicker conquest of King's Landing, which leaves less King's Landing political maneuvering, which I understand is some people's favorite thing about a Song
My
of Ice and
favorite,
Fire.
yeah,
But,
I like that.
but you gotta make some sacrifices.
No sacrifices.
saying,
Come on, move it to 8 books, George. You could definitely do it. Time for wolves.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm just saying that like we've some fairly big things have to happen here. There needs to be a new regent, Lady Nym and Tyeen's like shenanigans introduced, and a Cersei trial, and then the attack of Aegon, and that's pretty fast. I'm just saying, like, shoving in 7 regents and having time to like talk about each one and where they are and how they got there so fast